Good afternoon, America. We here at Quadruple J Studios have endured over a decade of events, people, and celebrities. As a thank you for this decade being gone, let's look over a few things that happened this year, shall we?
This was a crazy decade for sure. From civil rights to celebrities to politics, the 90s had it all. We saw Jesse Jackson lead DC's fight for statehood, promote human rights and democracy in Africa, and found the Wall Street Project to increase minority opportunities.
We also saw the rise of many celebrities and TV shows. Friends dominated television at the time. Jennifer Aniston, one of the main characters in that show, was able to launch her career thanks to it. Winona Ryder, known for her role in Edward Scissorhands, Dracula, The Age of Innocence, and Girl Interrupted, also got a huge start in their career. And another great example is Drew Barrymore, who started her career in 1980 at the age of 5. And in 1995, a few years later, started her own production company, Flower Films.
In the realm of science, NASA launched the Hubble telescope into orbit in 1990. It cost approximately $2.5 billion to create. Hubble gives astronomers the ability to observe celestial activity more clearly and is the first satellite designed as a permanent space-based observatory.
Next year, in this next segment, we'll have a news anchor describe the Iraqi-American conflict known as the Gulf War. And for that, we brought in an expert. Julio, take it away. The Gulf War as we know it started in 1990 when Iraq invaded Kuwait. This put Kuwait's oil field in jeopardy of being taken by the Iraqi government, meaning a monopoly of oil globally for Iraq. Most Americans will be familiar with the Operation Desert Shield, an operation launched by President Bush as a means of help to their Kuwait allies to prevent further aggression from the Iraqi government. Along with this, in order to prevent, United States troops, as mentioned before, were deployed to Kuwait's oil field, and in a 6-week clash, the troops successfully drove Iraq out of Kuwait. The result, the Iraqi government had to destroy their chemical and nuclear weapons, and they had to allow inspectors to enter the country and ensure that they were following the agreement. In a shocking, rather ironic turn of events, inspector found that weapons used by Iraq against US troops in war were actually sold to them by the United States back in the 1980s. Back to you, Julio. Thanks, Julio. Lucy?
In 1992, the country saw the worst riots the United States has ever seen. 2,328 people were injured as a result, and $900 million in property damage was done. Here's James for more.
Thanks, Lucy. Riots in LA began after a jury acquitted the Los Angeles police of 10 to 11 felony charges for beating Rodney King after a 7-mile police chase. King had recently gotten out of prison, so he resisted the police for fear of going back to prison for breaking his parole. During the altercation, a police officer hit King with his baton and proceeded to beat him over 50 times while he was on the ground. An amateur videographer captured the scene, and it was published on many news stations throughout the country. Many people already accused the LAPD of utilizing force too readily, so after the officers involved were acquitted, riots raged throughout the city. These riots were some of the deadliest the United States has ever seen, with 63 deaths, 2,328 injuries, and $900 million in property damages. Back to you, Lucy.
Thank you, James.
Now known as one of the most infamous and notorious criminal trials in American history, the O.J. Simpson trial that happened in 1995 was about O.J. Simpson, an ex-gridiron football star and former college football player, about the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. Today we have expert Justin Mangus covering the trial. Justin?
Thanks, Julio. On June of 1994, O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, Brown Simpson, and her friend Goldman were found dead outside their residence in LA. Police suspected O.J. Simpson for the murder, and after a long car chase that was televised everywhere, he was arrested in his mansion. On January 24th, 1995, the opening statements of the Simpson trial would begin, and the trial lasted a grueling 9 months. In the end, Simpson's many strong lawyers, such as Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, and Barry Scheck, successfully raised doubts about the evidence provided. On October 3rd, 1995, Simpson would be found not guilty of murder of both Brown and Goldman. This trial was among the most watched events in history, with nearly 150 million people watching the verdict. Back to you, Julio.
Thank you for that, Justin.
And up next, the Oklahoma City bombing. Michael?
Thanks, Lucy. On the morning of April 19, 1995, an ex-Army soldier named Timothy McVeigh parked a rented Ryder truck in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. Inside the vehicle, McVeigh lit the fuse to a powerful homemade bomb, made from a mixture of agricultural fertilizer, diesel fuel, and other chemicals. At 9:02, the bomb exploded, killing 168 and injuring another 650, and damaging or destroying 300 buildings in the vicinity. The FBI quickly identified the culprit by April 21st and found he had already been convicted just 90 minutes after the bombing for driving a car without license plates and carrying a concealed weapon. Although the event was quickly resolved, it has been remembered as the worst act of homegrown terrorism in the United States. Back to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Michael. Up next, the politics of this decade. Former President Bush started the decade, and President Clinton has led us through the rest of it. More after the break.
Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be the only one for me is you.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super Smash Bros., where all your favorite characters go toe-to-toe in one 4-player star-studded slam fest, only on Nintendo 64.
In early 1998, a media storm broke out after Monica Lewinsky, an intern for the White House under President Bill Clinton, provided an affidavit denying that she had an affair with the president. This affidavit was for an ongoing sexual harassment case against the President Clinton that began in 1994. Both the president and Lewinsky continuously denied any further allegations, but as more and more evidence came out, the president admitted to inappropriate relations, and many moved to impeach him for perjury and obstruction of justice. This impeachment trial went until 1999, but ended with the president being acquitted on all charges. While the scandal had considerable media coverage for much of 1998 and early 1999, many Americans were still confident in Clinton's policies and were reluctant to take him out of office due to an affair. This scandal raised many questions on whether or not the American people needed to be informed of the president's relationships and what an impeachment should and could be used for. Thanks, and back to you.
As we look forward into the next decade, we have much to look forward to. As the presidential race between Vice President Al Gore and the son of George Bush, George Bush! Engineers have put incredible effort in ensuring that these issues will not happen again and we will have a new transition into the next century. But only time will tell. And with that, we wrap up for today. This has been Quadruple J Studios. Have a good day, America.